Hi everyone and welcome back to Chess for Charity. In this video, I'm going to show you an amazing study where your goal is to try to stop this A pawn going down the board. So it's white to move here, and your job is to stop this pawn and hopefully win the game. So before I show you the solution, just take a quick note of the position and try to solve it on your own. If you'd like to also subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. We're almost at 4,000 subscribers, and I would just love the growth of this channel, so thank you for those of you who have subscribed. Okay, let's start talking about the solution here. So, like I mentioned, the threat is to push this pawn down the board. And you have this bishop here that, if you were to attack this pawn, just as an example, a2, and you can't do anything here to stop this pawn. Maybe you're thinking something clever, like try to see if you can maneuver your knight and checkmate. You can't because there are squares that the king can run to, right? You're not going to mate the king with just the bishop and the knight here. So you're going to have to be a bit more creative than that. So you're kind of searching for answers here. Maybe you're thinking something with the pawns, like if you do this and they capture en passant, maybe something like this. I don't know. Maybe something like that. The thing is, that doesn't have to happen that way. They don't have to capture en passant. All those kinds of things have to be factored into your calculation. If you play c4 check, they could just take with the king, and that's fine, right? There's no threat now. You go here, I go here. Sorry, white goes here, black goes here. There's no way to stop this pawn. Okay, so what is it then? What's the first move in this position? And maybe from there, we can start to figure it out. Well, the first move is already a stunner. It is knight c6. Bang, leave my knight hanging. And you might ask yourself, can I just take that knight? Or what's even the threat here? A couple of questions you might wonder. So for black, they could capture the knight. We'll look at that variation. But white's principal threat here is that if black pushes the pawn with the idea of promotion, knight b4 hits with a fork. Right? That's the point. That's why you played that move. So keep that in mind. So you play knight c6 as white, and black says, okay, fine, I'll take it. What now? Well, here's the thing. You bought yourself one tempo, which means you can move this bishop to a very convenient square. And what do I mean by that? When I say convenient, what am I trying to say? You might say, well, I'm not going to go here, right, to e7, because that's just going to create the same situation that I was just showing a couple of minutes ago. No, instead I play bishop f6. Okay, so I'm eyeing this pawn, right? The threat here is if, I don't know, black pushes, just as an example, I take this and I'm going to cover this and I'm going to win as the white pieces. That's an easy win. So you might say, as black, what exactly do I do here? I just move the king and protect the pawn, right? Well, what's the difference between these two squares? Well, if you play, as black, king c5, well, you just left yourself on the same diagonal as this pawn that I'm trying to capture. So I play bishop e7 check. You go anywhere as black, I just take this. No stalemates or anything. There are moves. So you can't play, if you're black, you cannot play king to c5. So what does black play? They can play king d4, or sorry, d5. That's a 5 here. King d5. Okay, now the question is, what's the point? This position is very similar to the initial position. So what did I just accomplish? What's the point? And here is the key. And you might think after this move, what is happening? The move here, one of these pawns is going to move. If you want to take a second to figure it out, take a guess. What do you think it is? The pawn move here is d3. And I love this simple move. This is already, according to the engine, this is like plus 53, which is crazy to conceptualize. But anyway, this little structure here is blocking this pawn, and you're expecting them to push this pawn. Just as an example, just to be sure I'm comprehensive here, if you don't push this pawn, maybe you do something else. Like, let's just say, for example, if you leave the pawn, clearly I'm going to take it, right? That should be the first thing I say. That to me is the most obvious move. If you play something like king c5, what is the best move? Well, again, you got yourself on this diagonal. It's not about this pawn anymore. It's about the pawn on a3. So that check is going to hurt you. So what is the move after a2? You might think, as white, this is lost. How am I stopping this pawn? Super cool move. c4 check, right? c4 check, moving the pawn up 2 to give check. And there are two, I maybe shouldn't say two, but there's the option to take en passant or not, right? Those are the two ways to think about this case. If they take en passant, well, the whole point now is I can take with the bishop, and this is not a draw. This is a win. Look at the way the pawn and the bishop are coordinating. So the king can't get in. This is a nice little barrier here. And white's king is just going to come in. And if the pawn ever promotes, of course, you take it as white. Simple enough. So you have to ask yourself, what if they don't take this pawn? This is where it gets just, it's a beautiful game. Chess is just so amazing. So, okay, where do you go? You can play to e6, d6, c5, c6, right? c6, c5. I said those backwards, but you get the idea. So let's talk about it. If you play to any of these squares, what do I do as white? I think you should be able to know the answer to this. You're leaving the pawn. So I take it. And this is all guarded. Look at that little fortress I have. Not in the strict sense of the chess word fortress, but I'm assuming you get what I mean here. A fortified area. Will take the king a long time to walk around. And by that time, by that time I can get wherever I need to get. Probably here. Okay, what's my point here? They have to not remove themselves from defense of the pawn. So they have to play c5, king c5. Now, even in this position, this is just my opinion, in this position, it's hard to spot this next move. Of course, if you know it's a puzzle, you'll look for it. But if you didn't know this was a puzzle, do you even play on in this position? In this position, white plays the amazing move, the stunning move, king b7. What's the point? The point is that if they promote, checkmate. Look at the way the pawn and the bishop and even the king support this checkmate. This is just an incredible checkmate. So really, in this position, it's pretty much over. Can you believe that? Because they're going to have to remove themselves from the defense of this pawn next, which means I'm going to take it, and it's just going to be an easy win. So in this position, the puzzle's pretty much over after they promote and you play the bishop checkmate. So look back at the very beginning of this whole puzzle. From this position, it is insane that you have to first give up your knight just for nothing. Why? You bought yourself one tempo, the same position but flipped around. You play d3 as white. You say, I'm going to fix this pawn on d4. Okay, what's the problem with that, you might wonder? Well, the cool thing about this, and I said it already, I have to just, if I play this move, I have this nice, what do you want to call it? Like, I want to call it like an in-between move almost, where you're kind of ignoring this threat and you're letting something happen on the sidelines. It's just such a cool way to make this clever move. Anyway, the point is that they play here, and the stunning king move, king b7, and all of that they can promote, and that is going to be made. Such a fun puzzle, such a great study. If you enjoy these kinds of studies, stay connected, subscribe, like, all that stuff helps me out so much. Trying to raise money for charity here, so every like, every subscriber is just a wonderful contribution. But that's it for now. Thank you so much. Bye.